Yeah. Are those veggie chips?
Okay. Want them? Yeah, go for it.
Veggie chips. Yeah.
Okay. Christian, how do you say your last name? LaMorte?
LaMorte, but LaMorte originally. It's Italian.
LaMorte.
That's right. You did it.
La Mortadelo.
What's the Delo? Yeah.
What's mortadelo cheese, right?
Oh yeah, that's not related at all. But La Morte means the death in
Oh.
Italian. Yeah, just like in Spanish, La Muerta, like the Day of the Dead kind of
So
thing.
your name is like
Yeah.
the Christian death.
There's a lot to
Wow.
live up to, you know.
That's it's a lot to unpack and live up to. So that's why you're a director.
That's literally why when I was a baby and they named me,
Yeah.
I decided there's nothing else to do besides direct. No. Yeah, it's a heavy name, but
Yeah.
I like it. I used to go by Chris. Then I was like, it's not my name. So I just
Okay, so
owned it and
Christian.
owned the jokes about, hey, what's up, Islam Lamort?
Oh my
And
God.
I was like, it's a closed-minded joke, but that's okay. Um, but yeah, Christian
So
Lamort.
okay, so all right, so SVA, you studied at SVA,
Right.
and you is that like your? I'm always confused about SVA because I've done short films there, but is it like the equivalent of like a Pratt? You know, you get like it's like a specific program, or is like multiple different programs? Like how does SVA work?
Yeah, I mean, SVA's School of Visual Arts, and my experience was like the film program, and it's very, in a way, segregated from the other programs. I guess film and animation is kind of what it's all about.
Okay.
But on the east side is the film and animation hub, and then on the west side is fine art and illustration and stuff like that. So, me personally, I didn't mingle a lot with the other majors, but I guess it's like a Pratt, in that way. I just general visual arts in general.
How many years is that like?
It's like a bachelor's degree, so like 4
Okay,
years.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. So it's a, and then you said East Side and the West Side. Like you mean like New York City versus
Yeah,
LA?
Manhattan, like
Okay,
East 23rd Street, there's the building, the film and animation hub is there.
okay.
And then I think fine art and illustration and among others is on the west side, where you'll see like galleries and stuff like that.
Like the West Side of Manhattan.
Yeah, like I
Okay.
think literally, I could be wrong, sorry, but I think it's literally West 23rd Street.
Oh,
So
I see.
it's
So it's East 23rd Street versus West 23rd
Yeah,
Street.
and I could be wrong. It could be 25th or something like that, but it's definitely in that area.
Okay, gotcha,
Yeah.
gotcha.
And
So
yeah, I mean, just film major, and it's very. I loved my experience there because I was already a self-taught filmmaker from at a young age, but then
yeah.
to go to school for it, I'm like, I mean, I'm not someone that's going to say that like film school's a joke, and because I really got a lot out of it because I think that's what you have to do. It's like
Yeah.
you got so many people there ready to work with you. You're in Manhattan, you're in New
Hmm.
York, and it's really up to you to do stuff with it. So that was a good experience.
So now you're kind of like initial kind of what and I always usually start with like what the initial impetus for you was as a kid or as something that kind of was like, oh, this is something that I really, want to pursue or something that I enjoy. Like, how did you even get to that point?
At a young age, like my parents are like uh like my dad is like kind of a secret movie fanatic, and
Okay.
I think at a young age he showed me a lot of films. One of the first that made an impression on me as at like I don't know 5, 6 was this old 50s monster movie called Seven Voyages of Sinbad, and
Uh-huh.
there's all these just incredible claymation monsters in this epic story, and I think that just sparked my like obsession with, I guess, just movies, but I was so young I didn't like think of
Yeah.
it like that. But then my mom, like, I guess saw me like playing with action figures at a super young age and started like introducing things like the small camera that was specialized in stop motion, which is what claymation kind of is.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
started making little movies like that, like taking
Ah.
pictures and they would move, formed into like, oh my God, my dad has a digital camera, and at my 10th birthday party, we made the Blair Witch, even though I hadn't seen it at that time. I just called it the Blair Witch, and it's
Okay.
a bunch of 10-year-olds running around screaming and going, "What was that? What was that?" in the dark. And then after that, it just became something I did from hobby to just like obsession, and then just kind of grew into funny skits in high school. And then
Yeah.
after that, it's like, what do you want to do with your life? And then I was like, I guess it's this, and then it became something more of a self-expressive art,
Right.
you know.
I think that's like a interesting kind of way a lot of people go, like that whole question of like, what do you want to do with your life? Because you're like an artist. Um, and I feel like people can kind of go multiple directions in that. They can say like, okay, I'm gonna like stick to the purist route and be like a real artist here, and like just do it and like
Hmm.
struggle financially. And then you have another group of people that are like, I'm just gonna go into advertising.
Yeah, yeah. No, I know.
You've got two options, either
Those are the two
struggle or
philosophies of your
advertising.
life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And like, I feel like you mean when you say advertise, you mean like I'm going to use my initial passion as just to serve something else to
Yeah,
advertise?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's always the balance. It's like
Yeah,
trying to make a living out of something that you can deal with doing day to day
yeah,
to support yourself, and then never forgetting or honestly make it for me.
yeah,
I gotta work on my own thing daily. Like
mm-hmm.
everybody around me knows that, and
Yeah,
it's just like a space I've carved out, which I'm happy to say it. Years later, there's been no like pushback about that at some point. Mornings are good. I,
yeah.
I carve out mornings.
Okay, yeah. I think that's the other thing is like you figuring out like a way of balancing. Like I had another director come on this podcast. His name's Red, and so he was on an earlier episode, and we kind of had that conversation about, you know, like being like financially stable as well as pursuing your craft and kind of the balance that at least our, I'm assuming you're millennial, like millennial
Yeah.
generation kids and even like I'd say Gen Z, it has to make that balance of like, you know, pursuing your shit but also dealing like trying to live in a city that's very
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah.
But so he comes from like the tech world, and so for him, he, he would be a little bit shy about talking about him as being an artist
In his job, in his
at
day
his
job.
job, exactly at his tech job. But now it sounds like from what you're saying, what you've been able to do is like you've been able to kind of strike this balance at like your jobs and like plus you've been able to carve out specific time for your own personal
Yeah, I mean,
progress.
not like overnight at all. I
Yeah.
mean, like there was the holding on to my own
Mm-hmm.
extracurricular activities for a long time. I would say
Mm.
I work with a bunch of like some of the most talented people I know right now at this tiny trailer editing
Yeah.
agency, Rebel, shout out, who are multi-talented artists in general.
Mm-hmm.
And that was such a refreshing thing to get involved with. And they took a chance on me to invite them into their extremely intimidating group.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, yeah, at this moment, that's really working because I like the work itself. But until then, I mean, editing jobs, working at some corporate stuff,
Yeah.
or like other things. Like I remember by trial and error trying to like I make movies and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
people either didn't want to hear it or weren't interested, and I soon became aware of the importance of the social aspect to keep you alive with your creative. If you're not around, I honestly believe if you're really not around anyone else like trying to either be musical, it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be film or your thing.
Right.
It's very, very difficult to like keep
Hmm.
some motivation and spark.
I noticed that too. I think like, well, it's like the company you keep, right?
Hmm.
Like if
Yeah.
like and who you surround. If like your closest five people are, not in that world and are taking you out of that, then it's like, well, I guess we all have some kind of, what do you call, what's that word? Why am I blanking on that word?
Social thing.
It's like, when you're social, not so, man.
It's okay. You can trim it.
Oh man. Okay, well, whatever. Anyway,
Like so you mean like what rubs off kind of thing? Is there a word?
what's that word where like you're trying to do what everybody else is doing?
Follow a sheep.
No, no, no. So like you're like if everybody jumps off the bridge, I'm totally moving those.
I know, it's like a
You know what I'm talking
philosophical
about?
term,
Like
right?
so, no, it's not even philosophical. It's like it's like that word that's like social I oh man. It's like when everybody's drinking and you want to drink with everybody.
Oh, peer pressure.
Peer pressure.
Yeah, yeah,
Peer
yeah.
pressure.
Let's
Yes.
back it up.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
So what were we
100%.
saying?
So peer pressure
Right.
is critical.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
And it's peer pressure always gets this negative connotation, but peer pressure can be used for good
Good.
when you're
Yeah.
surrounding yourself
100%.
with creatives
Yeah.
and you're trying and you're actively pursuing
Right.
that.
You can call peer pressure one of your good friends saying like, "Hey man, I really would love to read that thing you're writing." And you're like,
Right.
now you can suddenly get in this mode where you're seeing it through his eyes and you're like, or her, and you're just like typing it up and you're like, it's, to me, it's like, not to get too like, "Ugh," but like it's a change in consciousness sometimes when, you're just drudging through your own thing and you're not even imagining who's looking at it. But when you have someone or multiple people around like that either like your work or want to read it, like you can really like get in this new flow headspace where you're like, oh yeah, they would like this, and it's a balance of kind of like the people you respect's like um uh judgment that you are imagining while you're working on something and your own intuition. I think those balances can really get you to get stuff done and not compromise your vision at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. You said a lot of good words.
Well, I wish I said this after the screening because I was saying like 30 times because it was like 1 a.m. and I was like
Well,
screwing that whole thing up.
well, no, it's funny. I have to admit, I think it was like 12:30 when that screening ended at the New York Shorts.
Yeah.
And I saw the first question, and then I saw the moderator. He wanted a stick on that, like, so he asked the first filmmaker a question, and then she answered it, and then she was going to move on to the next filmmaker, and then the moderator was like, no, let me stick with you for a moment there. And I was like, hey, Grant, I got a dip, dude.
Yeah,
I was
no,
like,
I'm
this
right.
is not ending, like, what?
I'm glad you left for my sake. Yeah.
I was like, okay, but I mean, anyway, though. So now I that's I like want to talk about.
It was all very delayed, and that
Yeah.
happens with small film
Yeah, I know it was
festivals.
like
So
11:45 when it
I
started.
know, I
It's supposed to
know.
start at 10.
They got a small team, you know what I
Right,
mean? It
right,
happens.
right.
I don't
Of
know
course.
exactly what was going on there, but
Yeah.
God, God bless, I guess,
Yeah.
everybody that was sticking around for our screening, and it worked.
Yeah.
It seemed to work out, so I was happy about it.
So I guess that brings me to like your kind of your film, The Mix, and you know how is what was just all right. Well, for people that haven't seen it, can you just like talk about it, like what it is and what your mo for making that movie was? That flies.
Yeah, the most recent log line I've been working with is an audio engineer struggles to convince her podcast host to cancel a controversial live episode as disturbing online rhetoric and violence erupts outside of the studio. But the way it plays out is sort of a talking head satire that's trapped inside of some dystopian thriller action movie on the outside. And those tones were kind of something that came in the process of making it. And then went through discovery, and I was like, I really like to strike this balance because I think it's interesting and entertaining, but also drives home the point I'm trying to make, which was um, I initially started writing it because I just, as a millennial, as you mentioned, like what first 10 years of our life there was no such thing as like social media or maybe a little less, so we were
Yeah,
fully
fucking
conscious.
Friendster or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but Friendster, but it wasn't like where you get all your information
Right.
and getting information every second and stuff like that. So
Right.
I sort of have, I think in my like 25 or 26, I don't know when it is when your prefrontal cortex develops, when
Oh,
you
yeah.
are suddenly like, oh
I'm a
my
human
God,
being.
yeah, I'm a human being and death is real, and I'm not, and in a good note, like you're almost like, oh, these anxieties I was having, some of them are like kind of stupid, and then you have new ones.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I feel like that whole time, you know, like internet and everything was just exploding, like
Mm-hmm.
into this slowly seeping into our live everyday lives. And
Mm-hmm.
I think around that time I was getting into meditation more because I needed to get a firm grip on the excessive anxiety I was having.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily I was going to therapy, so I was aware I had like an issue that was just something I didn't want to deal with.
Yeah.
But through those practices, and exercise and stuff, like started to realize like
Okay, we're
yeah, cool. I started to realize that yeah, just I'm not gonna be able to repeat this.
good. Just checking we
Yeah,
yeah.
AI. Um, I just started to realize how addicted I was
Yeah.
to phone and stuff like that, and hated that when I realized that. So I took like a all-out break and fast, you know, I just was like fully aware of that kind of stuff and tried to live a life. Sounds so dramatic, but you know, I mean, you're just so conscious of like
Mm-hmm.
trying to, I found myself being happier. I had less anxiety. I might have been on the outside of trending hashtags or topics that people might have talked to, but it became
Mm.
like, and I know a lot of people felt this way, but at the time it's like, it's just me.
Mm-hmm.
Noticing people like parroting headlines or
Mm.
parroting topics without like further inquiry about it. And it's not just politics, it was about anything. Like, and something I would hear same people talk about the same thing all the time, and it's different than newspaper because you have an article by someone that wrote it and then everybody expands upon it. And this is just like you can find anything you want to find
Yeah.
on the internet. So long story short, with that, a couple years later, I was trying to write a feature film to
Mm-hmm.
kind of graduate from shorts that I was so used to. And lockdown was happening. We were all stuck inside, and I got a little mental fatigue from writing this giant project. So I was like, all my friends were like, "Take a break. Why don't you go back to a short and do something like that?"
Yeah.
So I was like, "Let me go back to what I know and like make something happen." And during that time, we're all stuck inside, all online, and I was like, man, I feel like my head right now is can be split up into like three people talking. There's like
Mm.
someone talking about one philosophy about collectivism and one philosophy about individual grit, and then
Mm.
one guy in the middle just happy to be there, platforming them. So like I started to
Mm. I
go into
see.
thinking about platforms, and
Yeah.
then it just kind of grew into a more personal thing about what is the line between you know uh, selling corrupting your mind to apps and platforms and
Mm.
total disengagement. There's one or the other has its extreme parts of it, and I wanted to explore the gray area in that way because
Mm.
it's a difficult thing. I think a lot of people can relate to walk a line of not being fully captive of these giant tech companies and also not completely not engaging or knowing what's going on.
Yeah.
That
One
was
second.
it.
Let me just make sure we're okay. We're still good. So,
Hopefully that wasn't too heady.
no. That was great. I think my just interestingly enough, I would be curious to know how many other millennial guys in their late 20s or early 30s have written a script about a podcaster.
A
Because
lot, I think.
I'm sure I've written my own
Yeah,
that our friend Grant was a reader, was one of the readers for, and I like did
that's
a whole
amazing.
setting, and it was like about a, but it's funny because I feel like so you took the similar tact as I took with a podcaster about making him this like hyper macho aggressive
Slightly hipster.
little hit. Yeah, he's got the mustache, the big
Yeah,
mustache. He's a
yeah.
great actor.
Thanks,
What's his
man.
name?
Thomas Philip O'Neill. He was awesome. We
Fantastic.
kind of bonded right away on what
Yeah.
we were trying to do.
And,
Yeah.
and I love the choices where you just had him go, "What?" It was very musical in a way. Like it was
Oh,
just those were
man.
the it just those really popped, and I felt like there was like there was a humor to it. It wasn't like a straight up, okay, we're just going to completely skewer this individual,
Hmm.
but we're like, okay, he's. I get like, what was the whole thing about like him drinking the green? Like, I guess he's like advertising this product and he's using his own product and he's like feeling like shit.
Yeah, I mean that was pretty much it. I mean,
Yeah,
brand sponsorship is
right.
obviously a huge thing in
Of
podcasting,
course,
and
yeah,
um, I'm not gonna point out a specific brand or anything, but
yeah.
I was during lockdown finding things to get into, and I
Mm-hmm.
was feeling like absolute crap. So I was like, oh, maybe it's my vitamins.
Yeah,
So I would look into this specific brand, um, and it was like a green drink, and
yeah.
did it, and I started to drink it every day. As I told you, it's not FDA approved or anything.
Yeah.
And I started getting like IBS, and no, and I just thought like this would be a very relatable slash funny thing if this guy is completely sold on his podcast and sold out, but this one brand that wants to sponsor him, but the actual product is causing him physical harm.
That'd be hilarious if
Yeah.
like he just walked around with a boner the whole time because he's taking Blue Chew.
Yeah, yeah.
He's just like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
he's just like getting high off of his own supply.
Yeah, man, that's the feature film version. He doesn't even know he has an erection the entire
The
time.
entire movie, he's just
And he's
hard
like,
as
"What the
shit.
fuck?" Yeah.
Oh my
Just
god.
burping with a boner.
Just going to town. So okay, and then in terms of your like, I guess, so that's this specific story. Like, do you feel like you have a through line for your whole career about like what you're trying to say, or is it just like what would be your, you know, overall, I guess. I don't know if that's such a broad.
What's a deep intention behind just keep going with
No,
making stuff?
I guess like yeah, like I mean, you know, I think a lot of artists will find that like for me, for an actor example, like I've only it's like a slow thing that you find and you can't really tell while you're doing it because you're in the middle of it. But like I've noticed for me, it's like, oh yeah, I really resonate with like, you know, like comic but like you know a dramedy,
Dramedy.
you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
but like I like when things are a little bit askew. It's like
Mhm.
absurdity
Yeah,
almost, you know, like
yeah.
I really dig absurdity. So in your kind of as a filmmaker, like what do you kind of dig? Like what's your
I dig all those things. Like, I definitely have a wide range of interests in
yeah.
film in general. Just to give you context, is like this short was a little different than anything I've ever done. Most of
Mm.
the stuff I've done, all I can really give you is an answer up until now, but I
Yeah.
know what I'm working on next. So
Yeah.
it's always been like dramedy
Yeah, I could
centric.
see
Like
that.
Grant
Yeah.
is in one of them that
Right.
I is really like, which was just it was stylized, but certainly not as hyper stylized as this one. And it
Mm.
was, you know, sort of Coen Brothers. I think is something that kind of clicked
I
when I was
see.
at a young age, as far
Yeah.
as like they're showing slightly exaggerated real human
Right.
beings
Yeah.
that feels like reality, but it's totally a little more absurd. But at the same time, it's serious and gripping and thrilling, and I find that to be, you know, to be like awesome cinema. I mean, and so I think comedy is important. When I write, it kind of comes out, and I find like opportunities for it
I
rather than
see.
intending to make a comedy.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, I love comedy, but all I can say is the next thing I'm trying to work on will try to blend some sort of social conscious like thing that I experience, but
Mm.
also issues in the world, I guess. But will I be doing that forever? I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
I want to make a documentary someday, you know.
What would you make your documentary
That
about?
I don't I would be doing it if I knew right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
But there's just
One
so
day.
many topics. But
Yeah.
I really love narrative so much that I really wanted to get a feature film or two under my belt. So I definitely am goal oriented if that's what
Yeah.
you are
No, I
wondering.
guess, you know, that's interesting, like, in terms of like you that Coen brothers, they're slightly like I noticed that. Did you watch One Battle After Another?
Saw it three
Did you?
times.
You saw it 3 times,
Yeah.
yeah. That definitely has that element of you know that it's like they're in our world, but like these characters wouldn't like you'd never find
Hmm.
like
They're in a way they're tropes.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like they're like heightened like the Sean Penn character is
Oh
like
my God.
clearly a he's a cartoon
I
character.
loved it.
Straight up
Yeah.
cartoon like through and through
Hmm.
he's a cartoon character.
Yeah, he reminded me of like Elmer Fudd
Yeah. Oh,
sometimes.
oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. I went to the Regal, you know, cinema whatever screening for it
Yeah.
like beforehand, you know, and they had Benicio del Toro
Oh,
and DiCaprio
that's
and
awesome, dude.
who's the, you know, Teyana Taylor and who's
Yeah.
the daughter who played Chase
Uh,
Infinity.
Chase Infinity.
So they came out and I was hoping you know,
PTA.
I was well PTA came out as
He
well.
came. Yeah.
And I was kind of hoping Sean Penn would come out to
Mm.
just talk about how he even crafted
Mm-hmm.
that character.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting like I'm attracted to that where it's like you've got like these people that are operating in the real world that we can recognize, but they're just like so out of out of this world. Like you
It's
really
slightly
aren't gonna find
tuned
them.
up.
Yeah,
Like,
and that's kind of like your podcaster a little bit. He's a bit he's like there. He exists in the world, and he's there, but he's like we've also dialed up. Like what was
right.
your when you were directing
Yeah.
him? What was kind of the what's kind of the onset like what was the onset vibe with you
Mm.
and him specifically?
That's a cool question. Well, first, before I answer that, it's like one battle after another. It's like like right now, like that is my favorite thing. Like
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I mean, but also like it's so unique. Like
Uh,
to, I I watched it a third time and it's something I noticed is just like the ability of him to be able to like weave and real. It's absurdist in some into something that's so real and serious and also like not and like taking the serious things that are
mm-hmm.
going on today seriously at the same time of weaving in like a dark comedy satire
Yeah.
in it. I just thought was like it's nice to go to a movie and be entertained the entire time without feeling like you're robbed of like being conscious of like real world issues. And I think that's so like I rarely see
Well,
that.
a little like alpha like side note
Yeah.
is that so I was on the subway and I was just like overhearing these two guys talking about one battle after another. And apparently,
Alpha side note, I never heard that. What's that?
well, like,
Yeah.
alpha, well, I mean like, just intel,
Yeah,
whatever, right?
yeah. Oh,
So,
yeah.
so alpha side note. No, but these guys are talking about how like PTA's method for writing that, like he wanted to get it made 15 years ago. It's like from Pinchon's
Mm.
it's like an amalgamation of a bunch of different short stories apparently.
Oh, I can
And
see
so
that.
he took a character of Benicio del Toro's character was a lead character in another short film, and he thought to himself, well, like if I can never make this film, then I'm gonna make a whole series of short stories
Love that.
based around these
I love
characters.
that. And it weaves in so well too.
Right. And so
Yeah.
it's like it's a work that he's been developing for 15 years,
I
which
love that
is
stuff. I mean, I'm a
interesting.
big fan of
Yeah.
Coppola, who works on
Yeah.
stuff forever. On Megalopolis is an interesting new movie,
I still
but
haven't seen that.
like, he kind of he might he gives it his all, and
Yeah.
he's an experimenter, and I
Yeah.
think PTA is too. I mean, he talked
Yeah.
about the whole plot of Benicio del Toro. They kind of came up with while they were talking, where he has this underground Harriet Tubman
Yeah.
Latino situation.
Right. Yeah.
Apparently,
Yeah.
they that wasn't initially like
Oh,
specifically
really?
in the script. They were
Huh.
just like, we got to do this and
They
make it
weaved
like
it.
that.
Yeah.
And I find that
Interesting.
experimentation is so awesome, and I love that. Like, of course, writing a script and then getting it done the way it is like awesome too. But I also am a big fan of like the magic of the
Right.
production and stuff like that.
So speaking of like the director actor relationship, going back to
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
so can you just talk a little bit about kind of that with your
Palermo,
yeah.
yeah, Sean Palermo. I wrote him initially imagining a more like fitness centric kind of uh, podcaster,
Mm-hmm.
and so
Like who would be the kind of person? Like a Joe
um,
Rogan?
yeah, no, so like yeah, like a thing like that, but I honestly not specifically Joe Rogan because I feel like he kind of has he states his opinion and
Some
stuff like
versatility.
yeah, he has a
Yeah.
bit of a versatility and some sort of a inconsistency, but that's okay because he doesn't come off to me as like completely you know ill-intended in a way that's completely
You're kind of
narcissistic.
like an Andrew Tate type.
I guess so, yeah, maybe
Okay.
something like that, but I
Yeah.
didn't specifically think of that. I wanted the characters, especially Palermo, to represent sort of a issue
Okay.
and manifest it in a person.
Right.
And so I wrote him and I put out a casting call on Backstage, and it was lockdown, so I couldn't really meet anyone in person. So I was getting a bunch of videos, and a weird synergy thing happened because I was
Hmm.
super into the show Mindhunter at this
Okay.
time.
Interesting.
Because I don't know, it was just a really dark time, and like
Yeah.
David Fincher kind of makes you really into dark times, I guess.
Yeah. Hell
So
yeah.
Mindhunter came on, and there was this guy that stuck with me in the first episode. He has one scene, and he's the professor in the first episode that the FBI goes to meet to interrogate, and he talks about it's the early 60s or 70s, and the FBI isn't really profiling serial killers as people that are human beings that could either these these uh, learn these things, or are they born? Basically, the question is, are serial killers born or are they formed? And that was
Mm-hmm.
something that was new in the 70s or in 60s. And so they go to this university professor who's kind of talking about this cutting edge thing,
Yeah.
and he wants nothing to do with the FBI. And
Mm.
this actor that's playing it stuck with me for a while,
Mm.
and like months later, I'm putting out a casting call, and he literally
Oh wow.
is reading my sides for Palermo, and I was like, I first of all, I can't believe this guy's reading it, and second of all, I never thought of Palermo like this, and it
Huh.
just clicked much easier. I mean,
Yeah.
it just clicked and it elevated the character to a more dynamic thing. And after that, I kind of was a little unconventional about it. I called each cast member that I cast, including him, and talked to him about the film and even asked his opinion about what he thought about it and things like that. We had a back and forth, and he said, I've never worked like this before. And I was like, I guess that's a compliment. And so after a while, I casted him, and we had a couple more phone calls. I had a table read at a cafe. I asked for some favors for, and we just kept talking about, you know, I grew up in Jersey, he grew up in Boston,
Mm.
and we kind of both were hyper aware of this sort of broy um, culture.
Yeah.
And by that, I just mean sort of like a cardboard cutout, kind of, following the path that's laid out by
Yeah.
you kind of person. And I said, use some of that in the character. And he was also offering his own, like, you know, when we would mention podcasters, we weren't pinpointing these people.
Specific
Yeah, it
person.
was
Yeah.
like Palermo was in over his head because he was an ex MTV prank show host
Okay.
that kind of went downhill and found podcasting when it blew
Okay.
up and decided to say, hey, I'm just trying to have conversations now. But then,
Yeah.
of course, that can become problematic with who you have on with no censorship. So
Yeah.
it kind of became that. And then, yeah, we went all in on backstory, and then he kind of ran with it. So it was pretty fun.
So the onset dynamic is just you guys just kind of like, you know, in different takes, just kind of communicating like, okay, like I like this, I like what would be kind of like a direction example you'd give
Yeah.
him, like we were like, I mean, yeah, even for like what he's like, "Ah," like
Yeah, yeah.
kind
Well, first off, like
of.
I established with all the actors, like in most situations, I want them to improv, but
Okay,
but
okay,
they stuck to the script most of the time. But
yeah.
yeah, like he'd go through it his way. I'd say, all right, slightly more absurd, think
Mm.
something like that, and I would say, have some more of those like testosterone-filled
Mm.
outbursts,
I see.
and honestly, like a little boy really excited that he's drumming up the fire on his show, and
Uh,
he would come up with these. I didn't tell him to do this. Maybe one or two I told him to do, where he just looks at the mic and just goes, but yeah, and different takes would have different tones, and
yeah,
the editing process was a mix of fun and kind of a bitch at the same time. But I tend to take even Grant, like
yeah,
Grant's the same way. He'll give me like a straight. He plays Professor Clive Mason. He'll give me
right,
like a straight, like listening kind of charismatic character, and then he'll all of a sudden be more cartoony, and I could
yeah.
kind of like use both takes to meet the moment. And yeah, it was about balancing those. But yeah, there was definitely situations where the actors like, I didn't feel we got it kind of thing, and I'm like, we
Mm.
got
We
it.
got it.
And
Yeah.
in low budget filmmaking, anybody that does it knows that sometimes you're prioritizing, and you're like, that's not the scene, we have to get it, and so let's
Right.
move on to that one.
Right. Right.
So
Right. Right.
it was for friction that I think helped.
I think yeah, it's funny. I just recently watched Linklater's latest like Nouvelle Vague, which is like the he's basically um, it's his retelling of the creation of Godard's Breathless.
This is the newest one he
This is
made?
the newest
Wow,
one.
the last one I
Yeah.
saw was Hitman.
Okay. Yeah, this is yeah.
This sounds really cool.
But yeah, so basically it's showing Godard like he would like they would shoot for 2 hours and then he would say, I don't have any more ideas, day's over.
I
And
love
they'd be
that's
like, what the
honest.
fuck is going on here, dude? He's just like half the time, half the movie, he's like in a cafe writing letters to his actors
Oh my
and then
God.
handing it to them and then just like, okay, bye. I'm
That's
done
one way to
playing
do it.
pinball.
How would you feel if a director was
If it
working
was
like
like
that?
if it was working that way? I mean, I've had that. I've worked with like my good friend Nate Hewitt, R.I.P. Rest in peace.
sorry.
Yeah, he passed away a couple years ago. But he like watching this film and like Nate, the way Nate was, the way he worked was. I just met his parents for lunch. That's a different aside.
Wow.
But yeah, that was over the weekend. But the way he worked was so confusing sometimes that he would like we would be on the set, doing the scene. Nate would be in the back like writing on a piece of paper with his like weed pen, just kind of like almost like he in his own mind, just kind of like looking at the paper, directing like the orchestra like that. I would go to the back and I'd be like, Nate, what's what's going on? Like I'm looking at his paper and it just has a list of words. That's it, just a list. And I'm like, and he's like, no, you good, man. You get back out. You good. And then I go back out there. I'm like, all right. And then I mean, there were literally some times when I just had to just like speak what truth I had, and I was just like, "Fuck this shit," and it was all on camera.
Oh, there you
and
go.
then that gets thrown into the cut.
Whoa.
And then we continue. And I mean, the film we're still, I co-produced it with him. It was just very guerrilla style in 2021.
That's
like
awesome.
right when the pandemic was coming out, like
Yeah.
right when it was the initial wave, it just ended or whatever. But I went to LA for like 3 weeks. For 1 week, we shot together, but that was his. And I was like,
Style.
wow, this totally reminds me of like what Nate was doing. Like that being said, like I don't know, like it's a shame that Nate's still not like around to like
Yeah.
shepherd the whole thing through.
Yeah,
But like
yeah. Are
his
you finishing it?
I'm finishing it myself, and like I think that's the we can
Nice.
we can talk a little about this other concept too. But like I think
Cool.
one of the things that I haven't really gotten a chance to do yet. I haven't really like gotten a chance to dive into that project,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm curious to know how AI noise reduction will work on that, because that was one of the biggest barriers on that
Audio
project was
quality?
audio quality is complete garbage, because we literally just got up, we did the stuff,
Yeah.
like we recorded audio on my iPhone, but it ended up like not saving, or
Oh,
I don't know,
no.
something like that.
Audio recording 357.
Yeah, just those issues. I have to make sure that like we still have enough storage on my
Yeah,
iPhone
too.
sometimes. But so anyway, regardless, so talking about that film,
Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's got their different style.
I know.
I love hearing about stories that are just plunging into madness and then
Yeah.
something comes out of it.
so do you find
think that's
yourself
cool.
a bit more on or like you talked about like improvise, but they still stick to the script. I guess also that the other thing about, I guess I could say about Breathless too, was that these are, and like Nate's film. I know Nate had done a film before that was a bit more structured. It was a bit like kind of professional
Yeah.
what we're doing. This was obviously way more guerrilla, point and shoot, just get out there.
Experimenting, I would
Exactly,
say.
and I think that was maybe the genius of Brett. If Linklater's actual retelling is
Yeah.
not like Linklater's personal retelling, and I
It
think
might be,
yeah,
yeah.
but like
But he seems to be kind of fluid sometimes.
yeah, I would just be curious
Yeah.
to know what Breathless actually was shot like, because if it was shot the way they described,
Right.
I mean the only thing I could say is beginner's luck.
Yeah, yeah.
because that's an insane. That movie itself is phenomenal,
Incredible.
but like.
I mean, I love the lingering that Godard does when he captures moments, and
Yeah.
it kind of puts you into this new. I mean, every American filmmaker I love is like inspired by like French New Wave.
Of course, yeah.
Like
That's
there's no. I mean, there's literally like long Tarantino takes without Godard and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're like, oh, it's like borderline. It's gonna be on the border of, oh my god, this is way too long. But then when you keep going, if it's interesting enough, put you in
Yeah.
this new headspace and you're like sucked in to this moment. And yeah, I'm inspired by that stuff and I want to do that at some point for sure.
I mean, that's the interesting thing about like
You really have to, from my imagination, you really have to have a really trust with your actors
yeah.
and like have a strong like sense of that we're gonna be like experimenting and
Yeah.
the cinematographer has to be down to like keep up with wherever the performances go and things
Yeah.
like that. And I think it can't be so rigid.
That's the interesting thing about like,
The mix was a bit rigid. I mean, besides the talking, see, that's the thing. I had more freedom in the
mm,
sitting talking,
mm-hmm.
but I was really trying to balance the hyper structured on sticks stylized
Okay.
version with this, and um, that was really hard to like to click. But yeah, I'm looking forward to not doing something so rigid next.
If you could go back with the mix, would you say like would you want to change anything about how you did that, or would you just say like, or would you want to change anything about the rigidness of it, or would you be like, no, like what it was is what it was,
No,
like
I
we're going,
wouldn't because
yeah,
what I intended is kind of what came out, and it
okay,
was like
okay,
I hadn't done something that was so like I want to be so perfectionist about the shot choice and the editing and stuff
mm-hmm.
like that without sacrificing these like interesting, funny characters and sometimes like
Yeah,
relatable. And I don't know, we're all really happy with it because,
yeah,
but having said that, like the way it's scripted is not how it ended up. So
right,
the guy at NY Shorts was like, "Is there?" You weren't there, but like he
yeah,
goes, I don't know why he asked me only me this, but he's like, if there's anything you compromise, what did you compromise for this? And I was like trying to think because I did my best not to,
yeah,
and all I could think of was to give the answer of like we did have this. It was definitely scripted as much more of a like traditional sequential order
yeah,
talking, and then the audio engineer and him are talking outside of the podcast, and then it goes back to the podcast. But there were opportunities in post to be much more experimental in how we portrayed the internet.
okay,
And I thought instead
yeah,
of just having like articles scrolling and stuff, why don't we
mm,
have specific personality tropes that I feel like a lot of people can like
mm,
recognize, whether it's an old woman who's saying it's not, she believes in everybody's a reptile and that like,
oh,
um, the old days were better, or if it's a professor that's like, um, I can't believe I got canceled from this college because of my beliefs, or if it's a tech
mm,
guy going, um, it's not left, it's not right, it's just that it's the people that are letting it happen, and like just all
mm,
these different, yeah. So no, I don't really regret it, man. I mean, like
yeah.
for this one, it was such an experiment. We had very little means to do it, and I think we pulled it off. So.
Was this like this was originally going to be a short and it became a short. There was no like intention for you to make like a feature on this and then turned it into a short or anything like that.
I actually do have pages of backstory and ideas for feature length and possibly even short episodic version.
Uh-huh.
Something I'll probably revisit later because
Yeah.
I need a break from this concept.
That's what I always hear about directors being like, dude, like I'm like halfway through this edit and I'm totally ready to move on
I feel like that
to
was the
my
whole
next
time on the
the,
edit. Like
the whole edit.
but yeah, there's definitely much more to the characters that would be cool to explore later. But it's nice to have this short to advertise for funding in the future for
Yeah.
showing that I can pull it off for
Yeah.
low means.
So what's that kind of, I mean, without like telling me what you're doing, like what genre are you looking into next? Like,
The next one I want to do is much more of a like, um, I'd say if you took like the social satire of like White Lotus and
mm-hmm.
like mixed it with um, kind of a LA centric
Hmm.
kind of thing, but maybe turns into a Coen Brothers Western, but
Wow.
with the heart and like character depth of a like a PTA film, but it centers around a disgruntled therapist, his failed patient who became this spiritual narcissistic guru
Oh,
in Los
interesting.
Angeles, and they both meet after 10 years at a psychology convention in Los Angeles, and backstory and all this stuff comes up, and it kind of is supposed to show kind of a generational difference in mental health community and maybe just generations in general.
Yeah, okay. I'm sensing a through line of troubled gurus and troubled podcasters
Yeah.
and troubled people that are giving their takes,
Yeah, I think
but
so.
not having it down themselves.
Right. Yeah, I think that might be a thing. I mean,
Yeah.
how do I relate to that is what you're wondering?
No, no, it's not. I mean, it's just I'm just making an observation, and I feel like it's interesting with I mean, fiction like narrative. It could be argued right now is not the du jour form of content consumption, and so for a lot of narrative creators coming out today, it's like the antennas are sensing, well, it's the podcasters or the gurus that are like the people to kind of talk about in the society, to create stories about like
It's
what are their
interesting.
things.
Hopefully, without being as shallow as being like, who can I talk about? Oh, it's them.
Yeah.
But it kind of can't. It's like I'm describing this in early stages of writing.
I
so
see.
it's
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
like
It flew. It's fluid.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah, it
it's much
changes.
more about like grounded therapeutic experiences
Okay.
and like
Yeah.
kind of really way less like sporadic and visually internet centric than the Mix
Okay.
was or something like
Yeah.
that.
Right.
But
Right.
I'm definitely interested in characters who find that they um, have grown up with certain, principles or things like that, but have been met with in the world, and they don't correlate with their like real experiences. Because I think
Yeah.
not just me, but friends, and I think a lot of people can relate to that, especially in our
Dude.
hyper aware
Our
days.
yeah, and our whole generation was taught with XYZ morals as children, and those morals have like changed.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I literally remember back in the day, like, it's funny, I remember being like, yeah, if you like want to talk to a woman, like, you got to go up to her and talk to her on the street, whatever, all that kind of stuff. And like,
Don't show your vulnerability.
yeah, don't show your vulnerability. And now it's like all they want is vulnerability. It's like, all right, great. But I mean,
Yeah.
I think like, yeah, I mean, just even more, I think broader than that, just kind of like the way, and maybe that's every generation. And like, I'm,
It could
as,
be.
a person who's older now is just like,
How old are you?
I'm 32,
Oh, I'm 34.
and same age.
Yeah.
So, but like, it's like noticing,
Pendulum swings so far.
what do you mean?
Like what you just said. It's like like let's talk about like the as a guy talking to a girl. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, you can't show anything. It's like all the way over here. But then it's suddenly no. It's like talk about just your feelings. Or
Right,
something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
or like be vulnerable, but also it's funny because like back in the day it was like, okay, you're cool, you can go out and talk to a girl in the street, blah blah blah, like you can do that, pickup artists, whatever, and there was a time when that was celebrated, right? Like,
Right.
and like in the movies we'd watch, like American Pie and all that kind of stuff, that was the celebrated way. Nowadays, I mean, I was just walking through Lower East Side and I saw a guy trying to talk to a woman on the street. And the first thing, I couldn't help it, maybe because I'm older now, and it might just be because this is just me getting older and just getting more whatever in the world.
Doesn't matter.
But I was like, that's a little cringe. I was like, I thought like him, and I'm like, good for him.
What did he do?
Well, no, he just like walked up to her and tried to get her Instagram, and that was the first kind of thing that he did. He's like, she had her headphones in, she's clearly walking somewhere, right? And he like runs up to her and he says, "Hey, can I get your Instagram?" That's the first thing he said. And now like, look, I'm gonna be the first guy
They
to say
never
like,
talked before that.
they never talked or whatever, and she's going somewhere now. Like, I'm gonna be the first guy to say like, look, I've been that guy
Yeah.
who like has like raced behind a woman and say, "Excuse me, do you know how I can get to the L train?"
Yeah.
Because
What train do you take?
yeah, and that's the thing. I'm like looking back on myself, being like, oh, like I'm literally seeing
yeah.
my past self in real time and being like, oh, dude, do it at a coffee shop.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. You
come
have the
on, dude.
knowledge now.
Yeah, it's like
the
like
wisdom.
I'm like,
Oh,
and I'm
man.
looking back and I'm just like, this is a slow train wreck happening because
Dude.
yeah, because I clearly know what she's thinking,
Like,
and I know what
yeah.
he's thinking, and this is just like she's going and he's going there. It's like it's like
And sometimes I think like all that stuff, but I'm like, depending on the age group, like,
hey.
is that the way now?
Is that hey? That's no. You're right. Like, who knows what these like? Honestly, like I don't know. Like maybe there's a Twitch stream dating,
Yeah.
kind of situation that we're completely not.
Oh no,
we're,
I'm not even on TikTok.
yeah. I mean, this is on. This
No,
is
I
the
mean
only
like
way.
I
But
just try to be aware of the scrolling. That's all.
Oh yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
The Doom life. Doom
But
life.
yeah, I mean, exactly. So the point of just, you know, we're like hyper aware of something in our 20s,
Yeah.
and then we look back in our 30s, and in some ways people are similar, but in a lot of ways they're focused on completely different things.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And
Yeah.
I'm interested in just, I guess, some way my writing's just always like personally coming of age, but it's just what I'm learning and noticing around me. And for now, it's contemporary, but maybe I'll adapt something that's historical in the future. But I find contemporary stuff to be of utmost relevance now, and I think like filmmaking's what's the difference between like there's a big difference in the business side, but like filmmaking, fine art, anything like contemporary stuff, it's like you're capturing the times. I'm interested in writing what feels like it resonates with me in the moment. So I feel like a lot of what resonates with me in the moment is the things I'm living through and the things I experiences. So until I adapt my Stephen King short story, I mean,
You're $1
it's
short.
it's the thing I'm drawn to. Yeah, my $1 short. Yeah.
There you go.
Or even Edgar Allan Poe. Oh my God, I love Edgar Allan Poe. I'd love to do something like that in the future.
Which one?
The Mask of the Red Death or Black Cat.
I did one which I didn't do it, but I auditioned and I booked it, but I didn't do the role. It was what's that one where he's talking about a corpse?
In the Wall.
Maybe it's in the wall I don't know, but it's like a prisoner walks in and the
Oh.
prisoner's talking about it. I don't know, I can't remember, but
I'm not sure.
yeah, it's one of those Halloween Edgar Allan Poe
Yeah. Yeah.
short stories, but like adapted into like I did a monologue for it or something like that.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun to do, but I could definitely see how that would
It's
be
cool.
interesting.
And like you said, to go back on that, like yeah, I mean narrative's hard in general.
Yeah.
But it is why I got into it.
Yep.
But I think, we're because of the internet and everything,
Mhm.
it's like, you're doing a podcast, it's like real people talking. It's like, I guess, and there actually is so much narrative nowadays, and just so much content.
There's a lot of
What do you write
TV
about?
and yep.
And I think, I don't know, you write about what you want.
There
to
you
write
go.
about. That's it.
It. All right, I think that's a good place to
Sweet, man.
to wrap up, dude.
This is awesome.
Thank you
Thanks
so
so
much,
much for
man.
having me.